After 10 amazing years of innovation and profit, Valve had become famous for many things, namely Half-Life, 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 and Half-Life. Though they had acquired some outside mods such as Counter-Strike and developed a few projects like Portal, these had always been tied back to Half-Life. So as was typical with Valve, they surprised the gaming world again when they announced that their title for 2008 would not involve Half-Life in any way, shape, or form. Rather, instead of Half-Life, their next game would feature Undeath. Left 4 Dead was a zombie shooter, but with several twists to help it stand out from the horde of other undead games. The game heavily focused on teamwork and cooperative play. It always follows a group of 4 survivors, any of which can be controlled by players, with the AI taking over the rest. As with Half-Life, the game creates an intense atmosphere that breaks up the combat segments to give it a more spooky feeling. To this effect, Valve created the Director, a persistent AI that changes the game depending on how the players are doing. For example, if 4 expert players are dominating, the Director will spawn fewer ammo and health packs and more zombies, while zapping out more lights along the way. Or, if one player is doing pretty poorly with his 3 bot companions, the game will lessen the zombie horde and offer up more health packs. As such, the game plays differently every time gamers shoot their way through the 4 campaigns, adding to the replay value. Since the undead has become popular in entertainment culture again, and given Valve's immaculate image, it was no surprise that the game was a huge hit, and Valve promised added goodies to come with DLC. But it just wouldn't be in Valve's nature to do what anyone expected. The company shocked the gaming world when they announced that they were jumping straight into production on the cleverly titled Left 4 Dead 2, which would release almost a year to the day after the original. Such a short turnaround time for a full sequel is nearly unheard of in gaming, and led to concerns that Valve would be rushing the product to shelves.
So after we launched Left 4 Dead 1, and as we were sort of coming to this realization that we wanted to do Left 4 Dead 2 and do it quickly, I think that we became pretty narrowly focused on, isn't this cool? Half-Life 1 was a year late, Half-Life 2 was a year late, Half-Life 2 Episode 3, where is it? So we tend to view ourselves as subject to valid criticism on our ability to manage our schedules. So when we started internally thinking, hey, you know what, we could actually get a really great Left 4 Dead 2 product out in a year, we pretty much assumed that people would go, wow, Valve's sort of getting its act together on the scheduling side, isn't that cool? Instead, for some people, since it was so unusual for us, they didn't sort of see this as an improvement over traditional Valve process. They viewed it as some sort of sign that something was changing at Valve. They were worried that, that we were like, going to milk the franchise, essentially.
Worse, fans of both the original Left 4 Dead and of the Half-Life series felt betrayed. Left 4 Dead gamers feared that this sequel would supplant the release of DLC for the original game, and would split the online community between the 2 products.
I cannot believe that you just shot me!
A number of disgruntled fans began a group promising to boycott the sequel. In barely a month, tens of thousands of fans signed up. Meanwhile, those waiting for Half-Life 2 Episode 3 saw their hopes dashed, since Valve seemed more interested in making infected zombies than headcrab zombies. But always conscious of Valve's community, Gabe Newell himself has publicly addressed gamers' concerns, stating that more DLC and patches for the first game are forthcoming.
They're coming!
And indeed, Valve has already released 2 DLC updates, introducing a new multiplayer mode and a new mini-campaign.
The interesting thing about Left 4 Dead 2 is that nobody on the team is like saying, okay, we need to turn around and ship Left 4 Dead 3 in 12 months.
And despite the burgeoning boycott, Left 4 Dead 2 has received more pre-orders than its predecessor. Still, for a company that's always prided itself on being the most gamer-friendly possible, the controversy around Left 4 Dead 2 is probably the biggest setback they've faced since the Half-Life 2 hack.
We didn't anticipate that sort of reaction. We completely understand, in retrospect, why those concerns were there. We should have addressed them as part of the Left 4 Dead 2 launch. Unfortunately, we didn't, and as a result, a bunch of people formed the Left 4 Dead 2 boycott. So our response was, this is a really legitimate set of concerns by these guys, and we need to talk to them and make sure they understand what the thinking was and what the choices that we're making, and get them comfortable that this is, consistent with Valve's traditional philosophy of giving people lots of value, of continuing to support Left 4 Dead 1. And eventually, we actually brought two of the leaders of the boycott group out to Valve. The problem is that everybody will tell you that they're not being evil, and we want to give you the opportunity to just sit you down and let you play the game, right? That seemed to be pretty effective at making that community feel like their concerns were being heard and addressed. And I think as a result of that, using Steam, we can see that members of the boycott group who have Left 4 Dead 1 are actually purchasing Left 4 Dead 2 at a higher rate than the global Left 4 Dead 1 group. And that tells me that we did a good job addressing their concerns and educating them as to what our thinking and plans were, so that they're now a lot more comfortable now that we're getting closer to shipping the product than they were when the product was first announced.
If there's one thing Valve has done consistently, it's defy expectations. No matter what it is they do, from developing games to launching digital platforms, Valve has always carefully taken a look at itself and the state of the industry in order to find new ways to push boundaries and change paradigms. As with any industry, most gaming studios keep to the safe road with established genres or franchises, innovating very little to be sure that the title sells. But Valve continually takes risks and gambles that no one else has dared, occasionally finding themselves in trouble, but always pulling through with tremendous sales and a sterling reputation. All from the minds of two guys who had never made a game, but always knew exactly what they wanted.
The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world.
Yeah! Did it!
They agree with me that you have limitless potential.